In March of 2022, a guy named Daniel sat down at his kitchen table and did something most people never do. He added up every subscription, every automatic renewal, every free trial he'd forgotten to cancel, every streaming service, every app, every cloud storage plan, every premium tier he'd clicked yes on because it was only $2.99 more per month. The total came to $847 a month. Not a typo. $847. Daniel was 38, making decent money, considered himself financially responsible, had a budget spreadsheet he'd been meaning to update since 2019. And somewhere in the gaps between the categories on that spreadsheet, $847 a month was leaving his account on autopilot every single month for services he'd long since stopped thinking about, some of which he'd completely forgotten existed. He found a meditation app he hadn't opened since 2020, a meal kit delivery service he'd paused and apparently unpaused, two separate cloud storage plans because he'd signed up for one and forgotten when he got a new phone, a gym membership for a gym that was now a mattress store. The money was just gone. Quietly, invisibly, automatically gone. And here's the thing that should bother you. Daniel is not an outlier. Here's what we're covering today. I'm going to show you why subscription spending has become the most effective wealth leak ever invented. Not because companies are evil, but because they are extraordinarily good at exploiting exactly how human memory and attention work. I'll walk you through the actual math of what this costs you over a lifetime, because the number is going to be bigger than you think. I'll explain the 3 psychological traps that keep you subscribed to things you don't use. And I'll give you the only system that actually fixes this permanently, not a one-time audit that you do once and forget, but a structural change that keeps working while you ignore it. By the way, I built a free early retirement calculator because most online ones are mathematically wrong. It uses BlackRock and Vanguard logic to expose the weak points in your plan. I only ask for your email to send the report, so I don't store any of your financial data. Link in the description. Think about a fishing net. Not a rod, a net. When you fish with a rod, you make a deliberate decision every single cast. You choose the lure, you choose the spot, you feel the line. You're present for every moment of the process. Now think about a net. You drop it in the water, you walk away, and it catches things while you're not paying attention. You come back later and there's stuff in it. Some of it's stuff you wanted. Some of it is debris, old boots, things you never asked for. Subscription billing is a net. Companies figured out sometime around 2010 that if they could get you to say yes once, they didn't need you to keep saying yes. The net stays in the water. The charges keep coming. You only notice when you bother to look, which most people do approximately never. The brilliant evil of this model, and I mean brilliant in the way that a trap is brilliant, is that it's designed around human forgetting. Humans are wired to pay attention to acute pain, not slow bleeds. A $600 car repair hurts. You remember it. You talk about it. $14.99 disappearing on the 17th of every month doesn't register as pain. It's below the threshold. And companies have gotten very precise about staying below that threshold. Here's the data that should make you sit up straighter. A 2022 survey by Chase Bank found that the average American underestimates their monthly subscription spending by $133 per month. Not underestimates it slightly. Underestimates it by $133. That's not rounding error. That's a category of spending that essentially doesn't exist in most people's mental accounting. West Monroe Partners did a separate survey and found that the average American had 12 paid subscriptions, but believed they had 9. They were off by 25% just in counting the number of services, before even getting to the cost. What this tells you is that the problem isn't that people are making conscious choices to overspend. It's that the spending has been successfully moved out of the zone of conscious decision-making entirely. The companies aren't stealing. They're just very, very good at making sure you never think about it. Now let's do the math that Daniel did, because this is where it gets genuinely uncomfortable. The average American, per recent studies, spends somewhere between $200 and $300 per month on subscriptions. Let's call it $219, which is what a 2023 Rocket Money analysis found as the average. Let's also assume that somewhere between a third and half of that is for services the person rarely or never uses. So let's say $80 a month in what I'm going to call zombie subscriptions, things that are alive on your credit card but dead in your life. $80 a month is $960 a year. Over 30 years, $960 a year invested in a basic index fund at 7% average. Annual return becomes approximately $91,000. $91,000. That's not a crazy aggressive return assumption. That's one of the most conservative long-term equity return estimates you'll find. For $91,000, for a gym you don't go to, an app you forgot existed, and a streaming service you only signed up for to watch one show 3 years ago. Here's the version that really stings. If you're 30 right now and you plug that $80 a month leak and invest it instead, you don't just save $91,000. You retire somewhere between 8 months and 14 months earlier, depending on your current savings rate, because every dollar you don't leak is a dollar that reduces both your expense baseline and increases your portfolio. The math compounds in your favor from two directions simultaneously. Now here's the part nobody talks about. Why is it so hard to cancel things even when you know you should? There are 3 traps, and all 3 of them are features, not bugs, designed intentionally by very smart people whose entire job is to make sure you don't unsubscribe. Trap 1 is sunk cost anchoring. You've already paid for 6 months of something. Canceling now feels like wasting those 6 months, even though those 6 months are already gone, regardless of what you decide today. The rational move is to evaluate only future value versus future cost. The emotional move is to keep paying to justify the money already spent. Companies know this. Some of them will show you right on the cancellation screen how much you've already saved or how long you've been a member, specifically to trigger this feeling. Trap 2 is the pause button. You go to cancel and they offer you a pause. 3 months free or just pause your account. No charges for 90 days. You click pause because it feels like the same outcome with less commitment. But pause has an end date, and when that date comes, the charge quietly resumes, and you're back in the net. Cancellation data from subscription companies consistently shows that paused accounts convert back to paying at a much higher rate than expected. Not because people changed their minds, but because they forgot the pause ended. That's the whole point. Trap 3 is the friction maze. The deliberate design of cancellation flows to require the maximum possible number of steps, clicks, confirmations, and emotional hurdles. Some services make you call a phone number during business hours. Some require you to chat with a retention specialist trained specifically to talk you out of leaving. Some bury the cancel button inside 6 menus and show you sad cartoon animals when you try to go. Every additional step is a calculated bet that some percentage of people will give up and stay subscribed rather than push through the friction. They're right, people do give up. The friction is a revenue strategy. Let's talk about Marcus and Elena, 2 people with the same income, same general financial sense, different approaches to subscriptions. Marcus does an annual subscription audit. Every January, he sits down, pulls up his bank statements, writes down every recurring charge, and cancels anything he can't immediately justify. Takes him about 2 hours. He does this once a year and considers himself on top of it. Elena set up a separate dedicated card for subscriptions 4 years ago. Every new subscription goes on that card. Every month, she gets a single statement that shows only subscriptions, nothing else. She reviews it for about 10 minutes when the statement comes. When a charge appears that she can't explain, she cancels it before the next billing cycle. When a new subscription tempts her, she has to consciously add a new card to the service, which creates just enough friction to make her think twice. Marcus, over 5 years, has done 5 audits and caught about 60% of his zombie subscriptions. Elena, over the same 5 years, has caught close to 95% of hers, spending less total time on it, because her system runs continuously instead of in an annual burst, followed by 11 months of forgetting. The lesson isn't that Marcus is bad at this, it's that a system beats willpower every single time, at every income level for every type of person. Design the environment right and you don't have to rely on remembering. Here's your three-step framework. Step 1. Do the Daniel audit, but only once. Pull up the last 3 months of bank and credit card statements. Highlight every recurring charge. Write the amount, the service, and the last time you actually used it. Cancel everything you can't immediately explain or justify. Set a 1-hour timer. You don't need more time than that. Step 2. Set up subscription isolation. Create a dedicated payment method, a separate credit card or virtual card number, that you use exclusively for subscriptions. Every recurring charge lives there and nowhere else. This makes future audits take 10 minutes instead of 2 hours because you're not hunting through grocery charges and gas stations to find the hidden subscriptions. Step 3. Create a cancellation rule and actually follow it. Mine is, if I haven't voluntarily opened or used something in 60 days, it gets canceled that week. Not paused. Canceled. The rule removes the decision. You don't have to evaluate whether you might use it someday. The rule already decided. 60 days of non-use means it's dead to you and you just haven't admitted it yet. Here are your 3 takeaways. 1. The average person has $80 to $150 per month in subscriptions they don't use. Over 30 years, that's $70,000 to $130,000 in compounded wealth that quietly evaporated into services you've forgotten you have. 2. The reason you stay subscribed isn't laziness. It's that the systems are specifically engineered to exploit how human memory, sunk costs, and friction tolerance work. Knowing the trap is the first step to not falling in. 3. One-time audits don't work long-term. The only fix is structural, a dedicated payment method, a clear cancellation rule, and a monthly 10-minute review. Systems beat memory every time, without exception. Daniel got his $847 down to $194 in one afternoon. He invested the difference. He's not going to notice that money is gone. In 25 years, he'll notice the $380,000 it became. Lazy investing built more fortune than crypto memes.